Hello, welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us today on the Apparent Voice. This is the Apparent Voice. Um, Today is Friday and closing out the week with a bang. We've had a lot going on in Detroit, rallies, protests, and one of our biggest protests this week was parents went and stood in front of the buses that were taking children back to school for summer school. Yep. And so we had a mixed group here. We had a group of parents who were ready to start their kids for summer school, rightfully so if they want to, right? Their choice, right? And then we had a group of parents who were like, what is our public school doing to our children? Why are you starting school? Why are you putting children in danger? Who told you to start school? Like our state is going back up in numbers of COVID, and we're just not understanding this. So wanted to invite a couple of, I'm on a testing committee for National Parent Union, and all we've been talking about is how will schools open? How will they, what practices are in place and what's going on, and all that, those questions that are going through parents' minds. And it was like a kind of shocker to people in the city. I think our news even did a broadcast on it. I was asking parents and educators, what do you think? So the largest group of parents were more like, well, what are they thinking about? Like I said, but then we have a group of parents who are like, look, stay out of my business. I'm sending my kids to school. Well, this week I had the honor of one of my co-partners joining me, Yahira Lopez, who will be coming on. She's going to help me co-facilitate a conversation, and we'll tell you about that conversation in just a few minutes. So Yahira? Hello, how are thou?
Hi. Thank you for inviting me to this space. We got a lot to talk about, boo.
Yes, we do. That shirt though. That shirt though. Yeah, that shirt though. I swear, she a G, y'all. You gotta find her on TikTok. She be on TikTok talking about education. She done made up uh um remixes of some of the TikTok songs about education. So you gotta look her up. Okay. So how you doing today, you hired?
I'm doing good. I'm feeling worried. Um, some capacity voiceless, and just trying to figure out what's going to happen in the fall. Where at least here in Mass, we're a month and a half away from school starting, and I don't want to wait till 2 weeks before school starts to kind of be given, you know, what's going to
So
happen.
this is what it's gonna be, and
Mm-hmm.
not bring the kids back to school, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So tell them a little bit about what you do.
So, how are you guys? My name is Jahada Lopez. I am from the state of Massachusetts. I am a mommy of two amazing boys. They're twins that learn a little differently. One of them is on the autism spectrum, the other one has ADHD. So, you know, how I kind of label our household is like a bag of Skittles and it bursts. Just woof, super, happy, sad, mad, all at once, right? So we every color of the Skittles we have, it's happening in my house.
Beautiful
So
rainbow.
yep. And I am also the founder of Autism Sprinter. I have a nonprofit where I'm specifically working with families of color to making sure that they understand their special education rights, policies, and procedures to better self-advocate for their children's needs. And I also am a co-host to a podcast called Mom the Kid Mob. It's on Anchor, and you can listen to it on Spotify, Apple Tunes, and iHeartRadio. And so there's a few of those. And on a personal level, I've been getting involved civically in politics, kind of speaking up in my parent truth about, holding elected officials accountable, and the work that they're supposed to do to making sure that they advocate for our children and our families' needs and do it in a way that is for the people, not for personal gain or fame.
Yep. Yep. So all is said and done, she's a badass, y'all. Okay, so like for real. But so She came on the show with me today because both of us sit on this testing committee, and we have a survey that'll be coming out, you guys. Some people may have seen it earlier part of this week, but we're going to revamp it. And it's just simply asking parents and educators, what do they think about returning to school?
Yep.
Our idea is that, like Yahira said, we don't want to go back to school and find out a plan like a week or two before. We want to know specifically what you're going to do in our schools and how are our educators, our children are going to be safe, what happens if they get COVID, all this other stuff, right? We want to know what policies and procedures are going to be in place and stay in place for the long term. We don't want the test in the water stuff and then come back and kids are having to come back home. Hopefully we won't, right? Mm-hmm. But the idea is that we learn from other countries, like China. They're already talking about closing back down schools, right? And they've had these intricate policies and procedures put in place, but it still didn't work. We noticed across our country, some of our early childhood programs and our youth programs have had to close back down. YMCA had you had 85 people test positive in one state here, right? And that was students and staff. And just thinking about the fact that they're going to go home. So that's 85 people at the program who was tested positive. But what about those families when they go home? So in light of that, I have a teacher friend that I've been knowing for a long time. And I just want to be totally clear that I am protecting her privacy because I do not want Detroit Public Schools to come back and feel like, she had no right to be on the show or whatever, right?
Everybody. That's problematic. That's problematic. I don't mean to cut you off. Mm-hmm. And this is where I'm just going to kind of give my 2 cents is that people in the educational space should not feel like they can't speak up in their truth because they will be retaliated against. They will lose their job. It's horrifying. And it's also even more horrifying that it typically, teachers of color who are in these spaces can't even really do their job and speak up in their truth because the retaliation is real. And I worked at a public school system before. And I know that feeling. I know what happens that if you advocate too much for the kids and your teen parents and teen kids, they kind of outcast you. So I just think that's problematic, but I'm glad she's here, but
and in all honesty, I'm gonna tell you, the person that she is, she probably not scared to come on screen because I know the type of person she is. But for sake of anybody that comes on I don't want to put her in that place, right? Because I could see her easily being like, yeah, y'all don't control me, the type of person she is. But with that being said, without any further ado, I'm going to invite, and I'm going to call her Miss Educator for the day. That's what we're going to do. So you won't see her, but you will hear her voice. And the only reason why you won't see her, we see her on this end, is because when she's off camera, it doesn't show on Facebook. So she can come on ahead on now, Miss Educator. And like I said, our Detroit Public Schools started summer camp this past Monday.
As we're all still sheltering in place.
And that summer camp that they started, I think I can hear your audio, Miss Educator.
Some of us are not.
Okay. But so that when they started on Monday, I was really concerned, and I was on a call Monday, and she just so happened to be there at my friend's house, and she's like, well, let me tell you the facts. Like, while y'all talking about people going back to school, let me tell you, because I know personally I'm working with the kids. So how you doing?
I'm doing good. How you doing? How everybody doing?
I am good. We are good. So we was talking the earlier part of the week, and you were saying that the schools, you wanted to clarify how the schools had opened. And I don't know if you want to share the school you work at or whatever, but go ahead and tell us how everything has been going on.
Yeah, I'm secondary, so I'm gonna give you a little bit about secondary, how it's working. I don't know about the elementary setting, but I'm secondary. I am an educator. I've been an educator for 20 years. To me, the process going back, I was a little weird. Well, at first I wasn't weary. When they asked if we want to sign up for summer school, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll sign up for summer school because we did the virtual. And to me, virtual does not satisfy every student. It doesn't work well with every student. And in the climate I'm in, it really doesn't work for the students that I deal with. So when they asked if we want to do summer school, I said, cool. So some was face-to-face. Some people got the opportunity to sign up virtual. So I signed up face-to-face. I went in the building. It was pretty safe to me. When you go in, they take your temperature. Originally they told us they only had like a mask for students every other day, depending on the numbers, and DPS had to get some more equipment in. So on Thursday they did get a shipment of masks in, but prior to that we didn't get the numbers that was expected. So students were able to get a mask every day when they walked in. Also, the buildings were they had signs on the doors where they were cleaning the buildings every day. It had to be initialed. The desks were spaced 6 feet apart. It was staggered when the students would come in. So it was only so many students that can come in at a time. So many students are released at a time. Only so many students can be in the hallway to go to the bathroom. It's like 4 at a time. I'm in a real big building, but we are confined to like a section of the building. But to me, it went really well. And that's just my opinion. To me, it wasn't as bad as maybe some people think. And this is how I felt, and a lot of people don't feel this. I felt it makes sense for them to try it with small numbers. And like some people feel like we don't want our kid to be guinea pigs, but it was a choice for people to send their kids back to school because there's a lot of students who are doing virtual learning. But and they can try with smaller numbers so they can kind of see what's gonna happen and what's not working. Because again, this is new to everybody. It's not a clear view of this is going to work, this not going to work, or this is the plan, this is how it got to go. This is new to everybody. So to me, it wasn't as bad to me personally. And I had about 9 students in my room. It's set up for 15 with the 6 feet apart, and that's 6 feet apart in all directions.
Okay. And that's our Detroit public schools. That's not
And I think,
school.
let me just say this. I think Detroit Public Schools is the only school in the country that opened up for face-to-face school. That was a statement that was made on Tuesday. I did not go and research it and look it up, but it was a statement that was made that DPS was the first district in the country to open up for face-to-face.
Yeah, and that was the thing that had everybody like, oh, because we were top on the numbers at one time, right? We were the city
I agree.
that was getting the most viruses. So people were just like, how dare you like test our kids, right? And on top of that, our governor has said 2 days before they announced it, the governor had said, there is no way basically that I am going to put our children in harm's way. Schools will not open until we see that it is clear to open. And so let me backtrack and ask you, give me like the run of, I'm a kid, I walk up to the building and I have a parent with me, what happens? I know secondary usually don't have a parent with them, but in the instance, they walking up to the building, what happens?
So the students walk in, they have to wait outside, social distance outside, and then they start letting them in. I think classes start at 8:30, so they start letting them in at like 8. So they come in and they take their temperature. That's the first. It's a temperature thing on the wall. They have to take a temperature. They have to give their name and be clear. If the parent is staying to meet with somebody, then there are rooms allotted for groups. Social distancing for people to be in a room, wait on a counselor, and then they have to wait to see the counselor. But it wasn't many parents that came in with the students because they
were allowing parents to come in.
Well, okay. They had to get their temperature
if they needed
to. And some parents, just to be honest, I feel some parents didn't come in because they wanted to register their child. They wanted to come in and see how it was working. I know they just wanted to see what precautions did y'all have in place. Let me see what's going on here. And I really believe wholeheartedly that's what a lot of parents were doing, because I haven't did summer school in a while, but when I was doing summer school, I didn't see this many parents come up to the school to enroll their student in summer school. And everything is online now. So and then it was different rooms that they were allotted to sit in and wait. And then after that process, I don't know. I know the students were sent to class. Okay. And then the students would go to class there. the principal where I'm at chose for the students to stay in one room the whole time they were there. Typically, they would change classes for 3 periods. In between periods, they would change classes. He thought that it would be safer for the students to just stay in one room. If they needed to go to the restroom or if they needed a break, then they would get a pass. But it's like only 4 students allowed in the hallway at a time. So the students are not changing classes. They stand in the room until from the time they get there. They bring their lunch in the room with, their breakfast, and then they get their lunches, they walk out the door.
Okay. And so I know you did last week we had a viral specialist on, and I was more concerned about the young kids being in school, but she was high schoolers. Go ahead.
I don't know about the young kids. I'm working at a secondary setting, so I'm not sure about elementary.
Yeah, but you said something earlier in the week when we were talking, you said you did have one young lady who, it was the first time she had seen her best friend or whoever, and trying to keep them separate.
And it was so funny. The whole week, that was a problem with them too. Like the thing is, I think they were comfortable because they see each other outside of school. So like, it's like they always at each other's house. So I think that's why they felt comfortable. The students that you could tell that didn't know them or they were distancing themselves from each other. But them two, it's like they see each other. Because at one point I was like, are y'all sisters? And, because that's how they was dressed alike one day. They was like, no, we best friends. We've been best friends since this day. So and then she was like, call grandma. So they go over each other's houses. But so on the first day, I didn't know all this. And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be a problem. Because I cannot keep these two separate. When one go to the bathroom, the other one got to go. I said, no, you got to, when they hit each other's face, I'm like, put your mask on. And so, but then as later the week went on and I got a conversation with them and got to talk to them, they visit each other's house, so they're comfortable with each other. So I'm assuming, this is what they do. So it's like me and my sister, and you tell me and my sister got a social. I live with her. We in each other's face all the time. So I feel that was their relationship. But you could tell the other students, they were social distancing themselves from each other. They kept their masks on. Like I really honestly thought that was going to be a problem with telling the students to keep putting a mask on. Like, you got to wear your mask, but they did it. They were sitting there doing their work good thing we got air. That was a good plus too, because if we didn't have air, that might be a totally different situation with the mask. But we had no problems. I haven't had any problems telling students to keep their mask on or social distance themselves, besides them 2 young ladies. But when I got to know them a little bit more, they know each other.
Yeah. So I'm wondering, how is that going to be when more kids are in the building?
I
right?
agree. I don't know how this is going to work in the fall. I think it's easy now because the small amount of students that we have, but we are in a confined space. So, but I don't know in the fall what this will look like with more students. And the school I'm at is a real big school. Like 1,000 plus, I know attendance. So I don't know what that would look like in the fall.
And you said that you guys are supposed to have a certain amount, but like really only half of the kids showed up.
Yep, only half. And then a lot of times when I reach out to the students, they say, oh, we chose to do online. So they there, but they just chose to do, their parents eventually signed them up for online. But one of the little girls I was talking to, and I don't know if this on the platform, but she was like, I did summer school because I just need to get out the house. I just need to get away. She's like, that's why I chose. She was like, because being at home and she's like, and I know I work better in this classroom setting environment. Because the first day we were waiting on the internet and stuff to come on, so we kind of talked. She was like, I need to get out the house. I needed to be in a space where I can work. She's like, I didn't do the virtual learning. She said, because she didn't feel she was wasn't a space where she can learn and work. In so many words, that's what she said. I'm summing up what she said, but that's in so many words, that's what she said.
What have any of the other educators like had any concerns that you know of, like social distancing? Well, we already addressed social distancing. Okay, wait, let me go back. So the masks, I know in the beginning of the week you were saying that they were only given they were only supposed to be given 2 masks, but per week. Per week. But and they're disposable masks, right?
Right.
But because less kids showed up, then the kids were allowed to have more, but then you guys got more masks.
We got more shipment on Thursday. Yeah, on Thursday, yep. But yeah, originally it was only 2 masks per week per student. So that was a concern of mine. Like, how is that gonna go? Like, are we taking them before they leave, put them in a Ziploc bag? And he's like, we can't do that because they have to wear them coming in the building. I'm like, oh, I didn't think of that. But then, because that was my issue before we started. But then he said, well, we don't have a number. So right now, any student come in, when they come in, we can give them a mask. So somebody can stand out there and give them a mask. And then on Thursday, he did say we got some more shipment of masks. So
Yeah.
right now,
Go ahead.
right now, each student, when they come in, based on our numbers and the amount that we got shipped in, and we'll have more, each student that come in can get a mask right now, as of Thursday when we left work.
Okay. You had any questions, Yahada?
I do. I have a question. So if for your students, are your students wearing a mask if they're going on the school bus? What's the protocol on that?
So I'm secondary, so our students not catching the school bus. They bringing their own self to school. I'm not sure about elementary, but the students have to wear masks from the time they walk in the door to the time they walk out of the door.
I see. That's really good. I was
And
wondering.
I will say that on the buses here, they said that the buses are cleaned daily. They did not say every time kids get on and off. They said daily. And the kids are supposed to social distance, like stagger seats. But of course, we know that's still, we're wondering how that's gonna be come fall, because again, all the kids not here, right? So kids gonna be late for school. What's gonna happen? Because you can't even get enough of them on the buses, And in Detroit, our city buses have that back door. I don't know about the other states, but our city buses have that back door. So you get on the back door as opposed to getting on where the driver is to help stop the driver from getting contaminated. But we don't have that on the school buses. So that means those kids are going right past the school, driver and any aide that's on the buses. Our school buses are supposed to have an aide and the driver. So, and actually I had a team of people who act as a third man on some of the, a third woman on some of the buses. So let's go back to the school building. So you are in one of our most advanced buildings, a newer building.
Yes.
What you think about these? Oh, because that building has air conditioning.
Yes.
A lot of our schools ain't had no air conditioning.
Nope. My school that I work at during the regular season, during the school season doesn't.
So have you heard anything like they fixed the air conditioners? Like, what's the status there? Like some of them didn't have the bathrooms working or the sinks in the bathrooms working.
Well, the school I was working, the sinks were working. But we had went away from the students drinking that water. They had to drink water out of certain fountains. But prior to COVID, I don't know, it was in the process. I don't know. The process was for all schools to get air conditioning installed. So I don't know. I know at one point, certain areas of our building had got installed, but it wasn't the full building. And I don't know. I couldn't imagine myself or my students being in my building in 80-degree, 90-degree weather with a mask on.
Yeah.
I can't even do it. I barely could take it without a mask, 80-90-degree weather. So I don't know what that would look like in the fall. That's why I say the summer is cool. I just don't know what it would look like in the fall. But also I do know that our district did open up virtual applications for teachers, strictly virtual. So I think in the fall they are giving the option of strictly virtual for students. So parents can sign, I'm sure they are, because if they open up applications for staff to only do virtual teaching, those applications open up a little over maybe a week or two ago. So I think in the fall they are opening up that option where if you want your kid to go strictly virtual. Now I don't know what that's gonna look like. How many parents gonna choose that, or who knows?
Yeah. I'm wondering. I was talking to one of the administrators from the school, because I usually do recruitment around this time of the year for some of the schools, and when I was talking to her, I was like, y'all gotta get on the forefront of this. Y'all gotta tell parents, and you gotta bring parents along with how these schools are gonna open. And I know that the district put out their plan, and then in the plan they had a link for if parents had concerns. But my thinking is, like, after this week, have you heard that there's any like committees parents could be on, or any other conversations they plan on having before school start?
I know it was a committee where teachers and parents could join, but it was it was with the, I want to say the
Yeah, the
state of
governor.
Michigan or the governor. I don't know if DPS is off on that. That was a concern I did have with DPS, even when we left in March, that it was no communication to parents. It was no communication to teachers either. So that was the issue. And maybe it was just so they didn't know, but that was the issue that I had. And because like even with the seniors and graduation and all of that, it was just no communication. And I felt it probably was no communication because they had no idea. They didn't know. But so I think that is an issue. I do agree with you. You have to keep the parents in the loop. You have to keep people in the loop. So like you said, they're not blindsided. But when people ask me, it's so funny because I'm an educator. Everybody knows, well, what's the plan with schools? I say, I know just as much as you know.
Wow.
The time you get the information is the same time I get the information.
Wow.
Like that plan that they open up for that with the parents and everybody to see, that's the same around the same time the teachers got it. If we got it, we might have got it a day or two sooner. It wasn't like a long time sooner that we got it. So we getting the communication just like everybody else getting the communication.
Wow, that is so sad. That's sad.
It is.
I mean, and now back to that committee that's from the state. That committee is an oversight committee for the whole entire state. And so I'm gonna say something that Dr. Vitti said on a show. He was saying something about Tanya Allen being from the Skillman Foundation being selected to be on that committee and not him. And therefore he said he felt like that committee like didn't have true representation of what Detroit needed. So I'm like, so is this why you went on ahead, was like, well, I'm open up because y'all don't know what I know about our schools.
I don't know.
It just sounded to me like a little shady, like you was bitter, mad because you were picked. So
right,
you gonna show them.
But Tanya Allen knows about the city of Detroit and the parents and the students in the city of Detroit. She knows. Sometimes they probably they wanted outsider. I mean, I'm not saying this, but maybe they wanted somebody who wasn't straight in the system and do that to see, because you have a different viewpoint than people outside looking in. So I'm sure they got some in the inside and some on the outside too.
Yeah. That was my thinking too. I'm like, wow. Like, so that to me, it just sounded like a tit for a tat issue. But I'm like, don't play tit for tat with lives though, right?
Right.
Don't play tit for tat, or I know best. And then you open it up without enough masks. Even if you knew masks were coming Thursday, it only take a millisecond to get COVID, right?
I agree.
So yeah, did you have anything else, Yahida, or anything else you want to say, Miss Educator?
Oh no, I'm
okay. So I thank you. I thank you for joining us, and I thank you for your transparency. I thank you for agreeing to go incognito, because I don't want any repercussions or anything, and I'll always protect my people. And hopefully maybe in a couple of weeks you come back, or before school start you come back. I'm gonna see if I can get some primary school teachers to come on and some charter school teachers to come on.
Maybe just reach out to me. We could talk about that later. But thank you for having me on.
Okay. I read between that line, so that's good. Okay, thank you. Love you, young lady.
Love you too. Thanks.
Yes. Okay, so Yahida, what you think about that?
Girl, I mean, it's just hearing her say as an educator that she doesn't even have access to information, and works in a school building and is servicing our babies in a school building, that as an educator, she is not respected enough to be given the information that she needs in order to better start getting ready for the reopening of our schools, to also start thinking about her life and how she's going to accommodate her family and her children's needs. That's just so concerning to me that we wait to the last minute to have conversations. And then, on a parent's perspective, and also as an educator's perspective, we're supposed to comply. We're supposed to be in compliance. We're supposed to say yes. We're partners.
Disagree.
Right. Who does that? You know what I mean? Like,
we know better. We're the educators.
Yeah, and it's just, and at least here from Mass, when you guys were talking about the reopening of our schools. So I know that each school district here in Mass is supposed to establish a reopening committee or a task force or whatever, a focus group. So we started one here in my school district, and I serve in the capacity of also being part of the Special Education Advisory Committee, council as a parent. And one of the things that and this is just from me on a parent's perspective, removing all caps off, because sometimes people see you in this role as a founder, an activist, or it's like you can't even say nothing because it like you're not supposed to speak up. But I'm not that person, right?
Yeah.
So we were invited as a Special Education Parent Advisory Council who, throughout, I don't know how it is in Detroit, but here in Massachusetts, it's a council who's supposed to work hand in hand with the school committee to making sure that, anything pertaining to policies and procedures around SPED, anything related to the budget around SPED, that we as a parent council have a voice at the table for those things, right? It's been a pandemic, we haven't necessarily been fully part of the conversation. But one of the things that struck to me, and another mommy friend talked about it, was that there was 2 days back to back to do this committee, to start this reopening committee, from 8:30 in the morning to 12. 2 days back to back. So that's what, 9 hours for 2 days. No compensation for my time. Who's going to babysit my children for 2 days for 4.5 hours each day?
During the pandemic, right? During the pandemic.
Or even if I send them to a local summer program that's open, who's going to pay that bill, right? And so in my head, I'm like, wow, this is already setting it up where the special education parents who we know probably nationally a lot of our babies didn't get the resources that they were supposed to get during this pandemic, right? Yeah. Because
they kept telling us, well, it's a pandemic. You have to understand that we're all going through this, right? But now the school's about to open. Like I feel like we as parents were gracious. We were gracious long enough, especially for those AP schools. We were very patient. But now the school's about to open back up. We got this concern. What's going to happen now?
Yeah, and so again, you wanted to have 2 meetings back to back for 4.5 hours each time. No compensation for me. None of that. So that automatically, and then another mommy friend is like, well, my children are in the extended school year program, so they're doing summer school. So how can I be part of that if my child is supposed to be sitting on Zoom and So it's just, and then thinking about the parents who are maybe single parent households, it's just, I don't understand how we think and we continue to place all these barriers in front of parents and then say parents don't show up, parents not engaging. Right. Parents.
Or to say, well, you just got to understand. You got to understand. No, we don't. When West Bloomfield Hills, which is one of our richest communities, or better yet, 3 blocks from me is Grosse Pointe, which is the richest community, one of the richest community in the country. They went home day one with plans. Plan may have failed a little bit, right? But teachers went home equipped it. Teachers had some type of professional development going on through the process. Students went home day one with tablets, with technology. They were like, they knew this pandemic. They got on the phone, ordered stuff, was like, here you go, moms. And if it wasn't day one for some of the suburban communities, it was within the first week and a half, 2 weeks. I literally was on the phone with a mom today, still trying to get her daughter's tablet. And we've been talking about tablets for how long now, right? And it's one of those things, if you don't do something with the communities that you are interacting with, it's a sin and a shame because you don't have their best interests at heart. There's no way that an educator or a parent should not have the knowledge and have the information that they need to make conscious choices ahead of time, right?
Yeah,
it's
true. And then, a few of the teachers, were truthful of my children's, educators that said that, a lot of them didn't use Google Classroom, and that they literally were trained, school closed, you got to take 1 day of professional development, a 3-hour crash course on Google Classroom, right? And that wasn't fair for them. So it's like, how are we talking about, progressive schools and reimagining schools when we can't even get the basic skill set of communication?
Communication.
You know what I mean?
Tell me something. We have a conversation. Yes. You have a conversation across the dinner table at home with your wife. You can't incorporate that in your job, right?
Yeah, and then for me, like for me as a parent, I'm also a little disappointed in my teachers union, right? Because I look to you to be the voice of your teachers and also the children that you serve. So I want to learn more about your platform. What is your platform? I want to be able to Google or go on the website to learn about what you're advocating for the betterment of my children's needs, and also how you can do your job effectively. I can't find that. And the simple fact that we're in 2020 and you have a teachers union who's afraid or maybe does not want to use the terminology of Black and brown, marginalized and disenfranchised, then I have a problem with that. Because if you're in a community like mine, I'm in Randolph, Massachusetts, majority of our residents and student body are children of color. So if you are unable to use that terminology in 2020 and you're serving in a union capacity, I'm gonna have to question your ability to lead. I'm gonna have to question your ability to advocate for my children, exactly. and let me know how you're thinking about advancing, technology in school districts, especially students of color, because you said that. You go to predominantly white communities that have the funding their monies, because typically in white communities, they financially support their schools, their public education. They really are invested in quality education. So while Black communities, Black, Latino, brown communities, we're always playing catch up. We're asked to do more with less.
With less, yeah.
We don't know, we don't know what our teachers union, at least for me, I'm speaking for my district, I don't know what they're advocating for. So I'm in so many feelings about, at this point, I don't feel like I can trust my teachers union. I feel like I can't trust the decision-making process, because you already put barriers for me to even have a voice at the table. And now I'm looking for both my state and local and my federal elected officials to making sure that they amplify my voice, because clearly I'm unable to do that. And a lot of parents, kind of like an educator, us parents too are scared to speak up because they might retaliate against our children.
Yeah, because then it becomes this thing of you're that parent. Like I remember at one time I was telling Christina Laster, like, I just was praying like, God, look, I need a little bit of a break from worrying about my daughter, because I was the parent who was always active like you, right? And so if my daughter sneezed in class, it was like, well, Mrs. Bradley, your daughter sneezed today and we think she did it on purpose. It was like, don't call me about no bull, like don't call me. But that was because I was in there, but about other kids. I was in the principals, but about other kids. Like, you're not gonna treat these children like this, right? And for educators. I mean, we done marched to Lansing with educators, right? And my thinking is, I'm wondering, how do the teachers even feel about their own union? Are they even being protected? Are the unions bought out, right? Because you a lot of the organizations are more, or schools, which organizations are more concerned about those federal dollars. And if they don't open those schools, those federal dollars don't come, right? Betsy DeVos, President Trump, or 45 said it, right? And it's a shame that you're willing to sacrifice life. So that bring me to the other side of the picture. It's not about education. It's not about education. It's about bringing the economy back. And when economy means more than children's lives, it's a problem. Because if they can't get kids in seats, then parents can't go to work, which means work declines, which means they have to keep on paying unemployment, and then the economy declines. And I totally understand we don't want to go through a depression. I totally understand. But our country's got enough money to provide for people. If they have billions of dollars to bail out corporations, they have enough money to take care of citizens until this stuff is a little more under control.
Yeah, because and I'm glad you talking about that, because one of the biggest thing came up for especially special needs parents, you know, who when the pandemic happened, they lost their jobs, including myself. I got laid off. You know, you think about those parents that were getting resources and assistance, right? So that extra $600 that parents were getting cut them off from other financial resources such as food stamps. I believe some people have said that it has decreased the money that they're getting from Social Security benefits and all that stuff. So then they decrease all of this. And for those, you know, who advocate in this space or in this space, know that to get those services back in place, it's a process. You got to wait till you're unemployment money. So we haven't even really hit the real stressors after these fundings go. So when parents lose these fundings, how are they going to pay their rent and mortgage? And to reapply for food stamps and all those things is going to take a few weeks.
And then wait a minute, if a parent saved a dime, or if somebody saved a dime of that money and it show up somewhere, first thing our Department of Health and Human Services, where they go apply for assistance, is going to say, oh, you have too much money in your savings. Like, you really don't want people to get ahead, right? Why would the federal government give people $600 to add to PUI to help with the pandemic, and then you take food stamps? What food has gone up double in some communities. So what did you give them money for, right? That's the working poor. That's the working the unemployed poor, right? And it's sad. It's really sad. And then people will say, I was on a call this week, and a young lady who wasn't from our country, actually, she's a resident here on a fellowship, and she said that she couldn't understand why Americans didn't want to return to work. It was just the numbers were dropping, and Americans just didn't want to. And she thought Americans were more inspiring than that, and this and that. And I'm sitting there listening to her for a minute, and I'm like, hold on, wait a minute. You don't know our plight. Like, hold on. Do you know how many working poor people there are? You know what $600 a week actually does for some families? It does a lot for people who were making minimum wage, but it does nothing when afterwards, like you said, I'm going to have to recoup all of this because you took all of everything else from me.
Yeah. And then, you know, I have two boys. One of my boys is eating like almost every hour and a half on the clock. Okay. So I'm spending an easy $200 and something a week on groceries, on snacks. Okay. And I don't know if it's anxiety. I don't know if it's depression. I don't know, you know, but he's eating more often than he's not. So I'm sitting here thinking, you know, when people are like, oh, you should be able to do all this with that extra $600. Let me guess. If you're a homeowner, you got mortgage, then you have property taxes, you have then water bill, you have a gas bill, right? Groceries, you still gotta, you know, clean a house because, you know, cleaning products, you know. So that extra $600, it's not like you can really bank and you're doing all this amazing stuff. I know for me, it doesn't go that far in my house when I have two boys. Right. And I still got a car that I have to still pay. I got car insurance, you know what I mean? Gas to put in that car. So, you know, the misconception of, you know, everybody's getting this extra $600, like, people, you know, don't be judgmental. Please understand. Don't be.
Because they don't know people's life, right? You don't know people's life. You don't know what people needed. I know people personally who got it and they were paying off their student loan with it. They was like, this is helping me get ahead of the game, right? I know people who got it and they were literally like, oh, well, now I can actually buy some things I need for my house. And so, I mean, of course, in every group, there's going to be somebody who go out and they flossing with a new pair of gym shoes. But don't judge people. Don't judge people, because this is a pandemic. And what I want our viewers to understand is that this is serious. I want people to really get on the forefront of these conversations that are happening. no matter where they are, no matter what they are. Push on your schools. Find out why they are not telling you stuff. DPS, CD parents, if you have questions, blow the phones up, blow the emails up. I'm an email person personally, because if I got an email that's a track record, I mean, I don't feel like going through my phone proving to you I called, but that email gonna prove that I sent you that email. Ask questions about that PPE. You just heard today that one of the schools, like they opened not prepared for the PPE, right? Other things were good, but we got schools in our community that parents know are not up to code, literally are not. So you need to be asking those questions. You need to be asking those principals. Email Dr. Vitti. I'm asking Dr. Vitti to come on. Explain to us what made you open up. And I understand it was the parents' choice to come back to school, but what made you even present that to parents? What was the purpose of that? I understand testing to see if, how it's going to be with a few kids in the classroom, but what I don't understand is comments about the governor not knowing as well as you do. You're not from the CDC. You don't know. You're not a viral specialist. There are people who could tell you things, right? Don't test our kids. Don't play with our kids' lives. Our kids' lives are valuable, and putting their lives at risk, and educators' lives, because they have children that they have to go home to. I feel like is that these type of situations would push more people out of schools into homeschool, which that's the avenue people are going, right?
Because you being home, you start thinking about what my child's district don't have, right? So clearly technology is an issue. So we need to advocate for that. And then, one of the things that we mentioned in the committee that we're part of is when schools officially reopen, and kind of like what the educator said, kids go back in the building, numbers are going to be different. There's going to be more kids in the building. And who's going to pay? Because, we've been hearing about this waiver that some parents are behind this so-called waiver to say, basically, you can send your kid back to school, but if something happens to them, they get ill, or it's not our problem. Sorry. Like, first of all, who does that? That's one. Then two is, if our educators and our babies get sick, who's going to be paying those medical bills?
And that's what I want to know about the educators and the kids, right? If these educators get sick and they signed a waiver saying that I know COVID, and we're over time, but we're going to say this last thing, y'all, and we're going to get off. But there was a waiver that went out for an early childhood program this week. I got it in a text message. And it stated that you as an employee understand that there's no vaccine for COVID. And you understand, I'm gonna read it. Wait, I'm gonna read it.
Since when do we become disposable to the government? Like, we disposable? But
so then here you go. It says, attention employees, please note all employees must wear their mask over their mouth and nose, no exceptions. There is no vaccine for COVID-19. All employees are working for blank blank child care center, knowing there is no vaccine and will not hold our program accountable for any COVID illnesses that they may encounter. The program will always practice safe Center for Disease or CDC rules and regulations. If you see anyone going against COVID or CDC rules and regulations, please notify the office personnel immediately. By signing this, you agree to the information in this letter. So that was her asking her staff at the child care center to sign off that if they contract COVID, she's not responsible. So I'm wondering, does that mean they don't get unemployment because they've signed this? Does that mean like their medical insurance is not going to cover it because you came back to like all that? Do I not get sick leave because I signed this? So be aware of what you're signing and ask questions, everybody, because you don't want to sign your life away during this time. But with all that being said, we could go on for hours. Yahida, I would love for you to come back when Miss Educator comes back and we have a follow-up again about this. And y'all go in and please share some questions, comments. I'll send it to Miss Educator and have her respond and tell you what her responses was on the text. Usually the guest comes in and kind of put their own responses in, but I'll put them in for her for privacy purposes. But thank y'all so much. This has been the Apparent Voice. Please tune in next Tuesday, 4 o'clock again. Thank you, Yahada. Thank you, Miss Educator, and thank you, National Parent Union. And love y'all. Signing off.